7 seconds, no, there's going to be 22,000 people there, so we can throw in some new songs maybe, and everything, but as it turned out, we didn't know. We played all old songs, and they just sort of stared at us, and it was a strange experience, really. It was about 6 months ago when Ricky Nelson died in that plane crash in 1985. Everyone thought he was broke. His divorce cost $1 million. He owed money everywhere. His kids were about to inherit nothing but debt. Then his brother found a will hidden away. And lawyers discovered something shocking. Record companies had been stealing from him for decades. What happened next turned his 4 children into millionaires. The settlement numbers were so big the judge couldn't believe it. But there was one son who got nothing. And the reason why will make your jaw drop. Ricky Nelson was born on May 8, 1940 in Teen, New Jersey. But he wasn't just any kid. His father, A.Z. Nelson, led a big band. His mother, Harriet Hilliard, was already a movie actress. From the very beginning, Ricky's life was public. By the time he was still in diapers, his family's radio show, The Adventures of A.Z. and Harriet, was already famous across America. Instead of growing up in quiet suburbia, Ricky grew up in recording studios and sound stages. Family dinners could turn into rehearsals. Vacations sometimes turned into scripts. It was like living inside a permanent spotlight where everything felt scripted, even the ordinary moments. When Ricky was just 8 years old in 1949, he joined the radio show alongside his brother David. While most boys his age were trading baseball cards or riding bikes, Ricky was memorizing lines and cashing paychecks. He became a star before he even hit double digits. Audiences loved his natural delivery, and by age 10, he was already a household name. But fame came at a price. There were no birthday parties with classmates, no sports teams, just lights, cameras, and responsibility. Ricky didn't really get to be a kid. His playground was a studio. His childhood, in many ways, was sacrificed for the family brand. In 1941, the family moved to Los Angeles and settled into a charming green and white Cape Cod colonial at 1822 Camino Pauro. That house wasn't just a home. It became the face of American television. It appeared in countless episodes of the show, becoming one of the most iconic homes in pop culture. Fans even drove by just to get a glimpse. But inside those walls, it was a business. Scripts were written there. Rehearsals happened in the living room. A.Z. ran the operation like a tight ship. And the kids were part of the crew. Their real lives were inseparable from their on-screen characters. This blend of fiction and reality made the show wildly successful, but it blurred the lines for Ricky. What was real and what was for show? Ricky also struggled with asthma badly. It wasn't just a few coughing fits here and there. It kept him home from school, away from friends, and sometimes out of breath just walking across a room. While other kids were playing, Ricky was stuck indoors reading or listening to music. It made him quiet, thoughtful. He observed more than he spoke. This soft-spoken side of him would become part of his charm later on. On screen, he had a quiet intensity that set him apart. Behind it, though, was a lonely kid trying to breathe and feel normal. When the radio show began in 1944, A.Z. and Harriet hired actors to play their sons. But Ricky and David didn't like that. They wanted to play themselves, and they pushed for it. By 1949, they were starring in the show as themselves. This hadn't really been done before. It was a strange mix of real family life turned into entertainment. And it worked. Ratings climbed and people became obsessed with the Nelsons. Ricky wasn't just playing a part, he was living it every single day. His real life became public property and fans ate it up. It was America's first reality family. Decades before that became a genre. Then came 1957. Ricky was 17 when he performed Fats Domino's I'm Walking on the family's TV show. It was electric. Girls across America swooned. The single sold over 1 million copies. Overnight, he became the face of teenage cool. But off-screen, Ricky's life was already spiraling into something far more adult. Parties, girls, fast cars. Fame opened every door, and Ricky walked through all of them. He was charming, but wild, polite in interviews, but rebellious behind the scenes. He started growing out his sideburns and slicking back his hair. Tiny rebellions that annoyed his parents, who still wanted to keep control. Later that year, his first single with Imperial Records, Bebop Baby, made history. It racked up 750,000 advanced orders before even hitting stores. When it did, it shot past 1 million copies and cracked the top 5 on both the pop and R&B charts. Ricky wasn't just a teen idol anymore. He was big business. His debut album, Ricky, topped the charts. Suddenly, being young and good-looking wasn't just cute. It was cash. Record labels saw dollar signs in every teenager with a guitar. And Ricky proved it worked. But Ricky was also getting involved in intense relationships, some that would have shocked his fans if they knew. One of them was with Marian Gaba, who played his girlfriend on TV. Off-screen, things were steamy. Ricky later admitted they would neck for hours, which, in the 1950s, was a scandal waiting to happen. He even gave her a gold ring inscribed to marry and love Rick. She thought it meant they were serious. He didn't. Ricky was already moving on to other girls, including singer Lori Collins, with whom he started writing music. To the public, he was squeaky clean. But the real Ricky was a teenager in the fast lane, and few knew the truth. All of this made his parents very nervous. AZ and Harriet weren't just parents. They were producers, managers, and gatekeepers. They hated how many girlfriends Ricky had. They thought love would ruin his focus. AZ especially was strict. Even though Ricky was making $500 a week by his mid-teens, his father held on to the money. Ricky only got a small allowance. His dad didn't want him getting spoiled. That control extended to his personal life, too. Rumors of engagements were crushed. Serious relationships were discouraged. But Ricky, already used to fame and pressure, began to rebel. Secret girlfriends, late-night parties. He was still the face of America's favorite TV family, but behind the scenes, he was slipping further away from their control. Ricky Nelson was only 17 when his debut album hit #1. The album, simply titled Ricky, came out in October 1957. Within weeks, it took over the charts and stayed at the top of the Billboard LP chart for 2 weeks. That made him the youngest artist ever to do so at the time. But this wasn't just a case of a teenager singing catchy tunes. Ricky was already a star on television thanks to the adventures of AZ and Harriet, one of the most watched shows in America. Every week, millions saw him not just act, but sing. While other stars like Elvis ruled the radio, Ricky was ruling the living room and the airwaves. Songs like Bop Baby and Have I Told You Lately That I Love You were already climbing the charts before the album was even out. His success wasn't a coincidence. It was a system. That system had a mastermind behind it, his father, AZ Nelson. As producer of their family's TV show, AZ saw an opportunity nobody else had. At the end of each episode, Ricky would perform a brand new song. This wasn't just cute, it was genius. 10 million people were tuning in each week. The exposure was massive. When Ricky sang I'm Walking on the show in April 1957, the song jumped to #4 on the charts. Its B-side, A Teenager's Romance, climbed even higher to #2. That kind of impact was unheard of. AZ made sure Ricky's songs were baked into the storyline, and he kept a tight grip on where Ricky appeared. He wouldn't even let him go on the Ed Sullivan Show. Why share the spotlight when they could keep all the attention for themselves? Then came Poor Little Fool. In August 1958, it became the first song ever to top Billboard's brand new Hot 100 chart. That alone would have been history. But there's more. The song was written by a 15-year-old girl named Sharon Shealy. Ricky recorded it reluctantly. It wasn't even supposed to be a single, but radio stations loved it. Imperial Records ignored Ricky's protests and released it. It shot to #1, stayed there for 2 weeks, and crossed into country and R&B charts, too. That moment cemented Ricky's place in music forever. His estate still earns money from it. The song has been covered many times. But no one else can ever be first on the Hot 100. That's Ricky's title for life. Between 1957 and 1962, Ricky placed 20 songs in the top 40. Only Elvis had more in that time. His very first single with Imperial Records, Bebop Baby, sold over 1 million copies. Before it was even out, it had $750,000 pre-orders. His contract was just as wild. $50,000 guaranteed over 5 years, plus full control over his songs and album artwork. That was unheard of for a teenager. The money from those hits didn't stop flowing either. TV kept pushing his records. By 1960, the Ricky Nelson International Fan Club had 9,000 chapters worldwide. Ricky wasn't just rich, he was everywhere. In 1959, he proved he could act, too. He starred in Rio Bravo with John Wayne and Dean Martin. His role as Colorado Ryan earned him a Golden Globe nomination for Most Promising Newcomer. But while his acting was praised, something else was on display: his spending. Ricky lived big. Custom suits, luxury cars, VIP clubs. He was in deep with Hollywood's elite. He was said to have a $5,000 monthly allowance, which would be around $50,000 today. That role boosted his career, but it also revealed his taste for the high life. Fame wasn't just bringing in money, it was changing him. Ironically, 1961 also gave him one of his biggest hits. Traveling man Sam Cooke turned it down first. He didn't think it fit him. Ricky took a chance on it and proved everyone wrong. The song hit #1 in April and sold over 1 million copies within weeks. The B-side, Hello Meryl, became a hit too. 2 massive hits on one record. Ricky had an ear for songs others missed. It was one of the last big wins before everything changed. Behind the scenes, he was getting frustrated. The older session musicians on his albums didn't respect rock and roll. Some refused to play the way he wanted. One even told him, "Kid, this ain't music." So Ricky fired them. He built his own band, young musicians who believed in the sound he was chasing. It cost him a lot. Salaries, gear, travel, but it gave him control. One of those new band members was James Burton, who'd go on to become a legend in his own right. This wasn't just about sound. It was about respect. Ricky was done being treated like a puppet, but no amount of control could stop what came next. In 1964, the Beatles hit America like a tidal wave. Their appearance on The Ed Sullivan Show in February changed everything. By April, they held all top 5 spots on the Billboard chart. Elvis struggled. So did everyone else. Ricky was no exception. His song For You that year barely made it into the top 40. The magic was slipping. The British invasion didn't just bring new music. It reset the rules. Rick Nelson was already a music star when he met 16-year-old Chris Harmon on Christmas Day 1961. He was 21. She was the daughter of football legend Tom Harmon and actress Elise Knox, and the sister of future TV star Mark Harmon. On paper, they looked like a Hollywood dream couple, famous, attractive, and raised in the spotlight. But that dream turned into a long, painful nightmare. From the very beginning, Rick was under pressure. His father, AZ, controlled his finances. Chris, raised in luxury, wanted a lavish lifestyle. Rick tried to keep up, but the spending never stopped. Homes, cars, designer clothes, and exotic vacations drained his bank account year after year. By the late 1970s, Rick was broke. The fairy tale had collapsed. When they got married on April 20th, 1963, it wasn't exactly romantic. It was a shotgun wedding. Chris was already pregnant, and her Catholic parents insisted on a fast ceremony. Rick, who wasn't Catholic, had to sign a formal pledge promising to raise their kids in the faith. It wasn't his choice. It was a demand. He had to take Catholic classes and go through the motions just to keep the peace. The wedding was supposed to be a celebration, but behind the scenes, it was about control, pressure, and putting on a show for the world. That pressure never let up. Strangely, Rick's parents loved Chris. They'd rejected every other girl he dated, but not her. They were thrilled to link the Nelson and Harmon families. Chris had the right image, classy, connected, and from Hollywood royalty. It seemed like a perfect match, but that illusion faded fast. Rick, who had always followed his father's tight financial rules, now had a wife who wanted everything money could buy. They didn't budget, they just spent. When Rick's career cooled off in the mid-1970s, the bills didn't. Chris wanted him home more. Rick had to keep touring. He was stretched thin emotionally and financially. The marriage that once impressed everyone ended with a $1 million legal bill. After their wedding, Chris even joined Rick on the adventures of AZ and Harriet. She played herself on the show and brought in her own income. But 2 paychecks just meant more spending. Neither of them knew how to save. They were surrounded by agents, assistants, and accountants. But no one stopped the bleeding. Rick, who once followed his father's strict money rules, was now throwing it all away just to keep up with the lifestyle. Chris, feeling trapped in a fake TV world and a crumbling marriage, started pulling away. By then they were too far gone. The Hollywood dream turned into a slow-motion financial collapse. In 1965, Rick and Chris made a movie together called Love and Kisses. His father directed it. The story was about 2 teenagers who elope and struggle to live with the groom's parents. The plot was lighthearted, but the reality was dark. Their real-life problems were already bleeding into their work. The critics thought it was inspired casting, but no one realized how close the movie hit to home. Rick played a high schooler, even though he was 25. Chris's performance got little praise. Behind the scenes, their marriage was falling apart. AZ used the film to play out private issues, putting personal drama on screen in a way that felt more painful than entertaining. It was awkward, uncomfortable, and prophetic. By 1969, Rick was desperate to escape the past. He formed the Stone Canyon Band to reinvent himself, blending country and rock before it was trendy. He recruited Randy Meisner, who would later join the Eagles. The band had potential, but the timing was rough. Rick went from headlining big venues to performing in tiny clubs for little money. Meisner quit, saying he wasn't making any money and felt stuck. The albums Rick Sings Nelson and In Concert were ahead of their time, but didn't